Hello everyone, welcome to episode number 33 of the elevator chat series of our Canadian journey. I am Darshan Maharaja. As the issue of the extremely high number of international students continues to dominate political discourse, we see that the federal Liberal government is getting much deserved criticism for letting the numbers rise so fast, so far. Even the immigration minister, Mark Miller, conceded that the policy was, quote, out of control, end quote. On the other side of the aisle, the official opposition party, CPC, has been measured in its statements on this issue. While I see many people opining that they should come out swinging at it, I can understand the approach from the point of view of political strategy. If they say anything strong-worded about this mess, then the political left, which includes much of mainstream media, will pounce on it and turn it into something about racism. It is better to let the events take their own course in their own time, however dissatisfying that may be to some voters, until the government is forced to admit its error in unambiguous terms, and they are getting there, albeit in tiny steps because they have political compulsions of their own. But there is one piece of information that I wrote about in an article earlier, and that is Motion M44. It was passed in the House of Commons in May 2022. I am giving the link to this motion in the description for you to read fully, but here is the relevant part. The motion asked the government to, quote, develop and publicly release within 120 days a comprehensive plan to expand the economic immigration system to allow workers at all skill levels to meet the full range of labor needs and to pathways to permanent residency for temporary foreign workers including international students, end quote. The importance of this motion cannot be overemphasized because it reversed an approach to immigration policy that has existed for like 40 years, which was based on attracting highly skilled people from other countries to come to Canada. This was in fact the root of the success of the Canadian immigration policy and something that the other countries were admiring. Countries that have this kind of immigration, that is. Now this motion M44 turned the whole policy on its head, the whole approach on its head, by doing a complete 180-degree turn. Instead of attracting highly skilled people, it starts talking about all skill levels, which means unskilled and low skill jobs as well. The motion was introduced by Liberal MP Randeep Sarai. If you remember, he is the MP who initially took the blame for inviting Jaspal Atwal to a Justin Trudeau event in India until he flipped and said, no, this was the doing of some nefarious elements in the Indian government. Yeah, the same Randeep Sarai. So if the Liberals voted in favor of the motion, I can understand, although I don't like it. I don't like the motion at all. NDP voting in favor, also kind of makes sense because they are in a kinda sorta coalition with the Liberals. But I believe the Conservatives should have picked up on this as to the serious implications of this complete turnaround in the way we approach immigration. It is noteworthy here that international students are considered a subset of temporary foreign workers. So, the kind of things that are making a lot of people unhappy now, they can be traced back to this motion because international students are clubbed together with temporary foreign workers in this motion. They are in a subset. of temporary foreign workers. Now, here is the kicker. The motion passed with a vote of 324 to 0. Let me emphasize this. There was no vote against the motion. This means that all the CPC MPs who voted on the motion voted in favor. As we know, the number of international students started really exploding after this time frame. So unless I am given evidence to the contrary, I am going to conclude that the federal conservatives gave their approval to this explosion. In fairness though, this vote happened when Erin O'Toole was the CPC leader, so I wouldn't hang this vote around the neck of the current leadership. Before anyone thinks that I am giving them too much slack here, allow me to point out that I have been plenty critical of CPC in the past. In fact, I wrote 9 articles on their general lack of strategic sense and abysmally poor grasp of communications. You can access these articles by going to my website darshanmaharaja.ca and searching for the title All in One Place. It contains links to all these 9 articles. But that criticism was in the context when Andrew Scheer and Erin O'Toole were the leaders of CPC. If we can charitably call their actions to amount to real leadership, I don't think they did, but that's my view. But also in fairness, now that Pierre Poilievre is the leader, he needs to make the party's stance on this vote clear. And let me emphasize, on this vote, not in the matter itself, as to why there was no opposing vote from conservatives to this motion. I think so because all the other solutions that he is proposing, most pertinently on the housing front, hinge on having clarity on this one issue. And so does his credibility, to be honest. However, to reiterate, I don't think he should be pressured into doing it now. The timing of his clarification will necessarily depend on political considerations. All I am saying here is that those Canadians who may be considering voting for CPC in the next election should keep this in mind. Turning to Ontario, it is no secret that about half of the international students come to Ontario. There has been an explosion of private career colleges. I am making air quotes here. Many, in fact, too many of these colleges are of dubious value to anyone except the small number of people who are making out like bandits with the whole study permit thing. Conservative voters, and in fact all Ontarians, come to think of it, all Canadians, need to make the Ford government accountable for being asleep at the wheel. The runaway train/train wreck of a policy that has created untold innumerable miseries for millions of people. Premier Ford, his concerned minister, who has so far demonstrated that she is unconcerned, Jill Dunlop, and his entire cabinet and caucus need to be taken to task for this abdication of duty. A lot of damage has already been inflicted on Canadians because they, that is Ford and company, have been derelict in the discharge of their duties. But even if it is late, they can act to stem the rot now. To do that, they will need to crack down hard on these sham colleges. That is my opinion at least. What is yours? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, goodbye and be well.